Jesus' monad prayer, activating the I Am code for unrivaled power. Ancient secret revealed. Jesus' I Am monad prayer activates your divine power. Instantly segredo. Antigo revelado, ora calmenada. Eu sou de Jesus. Ativa seu poder divino, instantaneamente for centuries. The true nature of Jesus' power has been shrouded in mystery. What if I told you the key to unlocking that unrivaled power is found in one prayer, and it's something you can activate today? We're dissecting the monad prayer, the precise technique Jesus used to activate the I Am code, the divine spark within, for unrivaled manifestation. This isn't just spiritual insight, it's a practical vibrational key to unlocking true Christ consciousness and commanding your reality. The hidden prayer of power. The conventional understanding of prayer positions humanity in a state of perpetual supplication, begging an external deity for favors, blessings, and interventions in circumstances perceived as beyond personal control. This paradigm of powerlessness has dominated religious practice for millennia, conditioning billions to approach the divine from a place of lack, unworthiness, and desperate need. However, careful examination of Jesus' authentic teachings, particularly those preserved in esoteric traditions and carefully analyzed passages from canonical texts, reveals a radically different approach to prayer that has nothing to do with asking and everything to do with vibrational alignment with one's inherent divine nature. The concept of the monad originates from ancient Greek philosophy and mystical traditions, referring to the ultimate source of all existence, the indivisible unity from which all consciousness emanates. In Gnostic cosmology, the monad represents the true transcendent God, distinct from and infinitely superior to the demiurge who created the material world. Each human soul carries within its deepest essence a direct connection to this monad, a divine blueprint that contains unlimited creative potential and absolute sovereignty over reality. This connection exists independently of any external religious authority, ritual, or intermediary, requiring only recognition and activation to access its full power. Jesus' prayer practice, when understood through this esoteric lens, becomes something entirely different from what institutional Christianity teaches. Rather than approaching prayer as a petition to an external father figure, Jesus utilized prayer as a technique for aligning his consciousness with the monad, becoming a clear channel through which divine creative force could flow into material manifestation. This distinction explains why his prayers produced immediate, dramatic results, while conventional prayers often yield ambiguous or non-existent outcomes. The missing link in traditional prayer practice is the fundamental misunderstanding of the relationship between human consciousness and divine power. When individuals pray from a consciousness of separation, believing they must convince an external God to grant their requests, they reinforce the very vibration of powerlessness that blocks manifestation. The energetic signature of begging, pleading, and hoping broadcasts slack into the quantum field, generating more experiences that match that frequency. True prayer, as Jesus demonstrated, operates from an entirely different state of being. It recognizes that the power to transform reality already exists within, requiring not external permission but internal activation through proper understanding and technique. Deconstructing the I Am code throughout the Gospel accounts, Jesus repeatedly employed a specific phrase that conventional religious scholarship treats as unremarkable, yet which holds profound significance when analyzed through esoteric understanding. The declaration I am appears consistently in moments of extraordinary power, healing, and manifestation, functioning not as simple self-identification but as a precise vibrational code that activates dormant divine potential within human consciousness. This phrase represents far more than grammatical construction. It serves as the master key to accessing monadic power and commanding reality at its fundamental level. The linguistic structure of I am carries specific energetic properties that distinguish it from all other forms of By declaring I am without qualification, attachment, or limitation, consciousness enters a state of pure being, transcending the ego's endless narratives about who and what it thinks itself to be. This declaration bypasses the conditioned mind's tendency to define identity through temporary circumstances, roles, relationships, and material conditions. Instead, it asserts existence itself as the primary reality, prior to all conceptual overlays and societal programming that obscure awareness of one's true divine nature. Jesus' intentional and repeated use of this phrase was never casual or accidental. When he stated, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. I am the resurrection, or before Abraham was, I am. He was not making egotistical claims about his personal superiority, but demonstrating a level of consciousness that every human being possesses the potential to access. These declarations functioned as frequency activations, creating energetic ripples that awakened similar recognition in those who witnessed them. The reason religious authorities reacted with such hostility to these statements reveals their understanding, perhaps unconscious, that Jesus was teaching people to recognize their own divine sovereignty rather than submitting to external religious control. The internal mechanism through which I am operates involves direct connection to the monad, the divine spark that exists beyond the ego's jurisdiction. When consciousness declares, I am with full presence and conviction, it momentarily transcends identification with the false self constructed by personal history, trauma, and conditioning. In that space of pure being, awareness merges with the monad's unlimited creative potential, gaining access to the same power Jesus wielded to heal diseases, transform matter, and override the apparent laws governing physical reality. Activating your inner Christ consciousness. The term Christ consciousness has been appropriated and distorted by religious institutions that position it as something exclusive to Jesus or achievable only through specific doctrinal beliefs and ritualistic practices. However, the original meaning of Christ derives from the Greek Christos, meaning anointed one, which itself translates the Hebrew Messiah, referring to someone who has activated their divine nature and operates from that awakened state. This consciousness represents not a religious achievement, but a recognition of inherent reality that every human being can access regardless of their religious affiliation, cultural background, or spiritual history. Christ's consciousness describes a state of awareness in which the individual recognizes their identity as an expression of the monad, rather than as a separate, limited, vulnerable entity struggling through a hostile universe. This shift in self-perception fundamentally transforms the relationship between consciousness and reality, replacing the paradigm of powerless victimhood with one of creative sovereignty. Individuals operating from this level of awareness no longer perceive themselves as subject to circumstances beyond their control, but instead recognize their thoughts, beliefs, and energetic frequencies as the primary creative forces shaping their experienced reality. The practical techniques for internalizing and activating the I Am code involve specific practices that bridge intellectual understanding with experiential embodiment. Sound plays a crucial role in this activation, as the vibration of speaking I am with full presence creates measurable physiological and energetic effects. The sustained vocalization of this phrase at specific tonal frequencies generates harmonic resonance throughout the body's energy system, clearing blockages and establishing coherence between different levels of consciousness. When combined with intentional breathwork that amplifies life force energy, the practice becomes exponentially more powerful. Focused intention serves as the directing force that channels monadic power towards specific manifestations. After establishing connection through sound and breath, practitioners direct awareness to desired outcomes while maintaining the I Am vibration, effectively impressing the monad's creative power with specific templates for manifestation. The subtle signs indicating strengthening monad connection include spontaneous synchronicities appearing with increasing frequency, intuitive insights arriving with greater clarity, emotional states stabilizing at higher baseline frequencies, and physical sensations of energy movement throughout the body. As the practice deepens, individuals may experience profound moments of expanded awareness where ordinary perception temporarily gives way to direct recognition of reality's fundamental nature as consciousness itself, manifesting through infinite forms, manifesting unrivaled reality. The transformation from supplication to command represents perhaps the most radical shift in human consciousness possible, fundamentally altering not just how individuals pray, but how they relate to existence itself. When the I Am code activates and monad connection establishes, consciousness moves from the position of powerless observer, pleading with external forces for intervention, to that of sovereign creator, deliberately shaping reality through directed intention. This shift does not involve developing new abilities, but rather recognizing and utilizing capacities that have always existed, yet remained dormant due to conditioning, ignorance, and the deliberate suppression of this knowledge by institutions benefiting from human disempowerment. The biblical narratives describing Jesus' miracles take on entirely new meaning when reinterpreted through the lens of monadic power. His healing of diseases, multiplication of resources, command over natural forces, and even resurrection from death demonstrate not supernatural intervention by an external deity, but rather the natural results of consciousness operating from full recognition of its divine nature. Each miracle illustrates specific principles of reality manipulation available to anyone who activates their monad connection and maintains sufficiently high vibrational frequency. The transformation of water into wine, for instance, demonstrates consciousness's ability to reorganize molecular structures through intention, while the healing of blindness and paralysis show how monadic frequency can restore optimal patterns to biological systems. The walking on water incident particularly illustrates the principle that physical laws are not absolute constraints, but rather default patterns that higher consciousness can override. When Jesus demonstrated this capability, he was not violating physics, but rather accessing the level of reality that precedes and generates physical manifestation, commanding it according to his intention. His statement that his followers would do greater works than these confirms that these abilities represent not his exclusive divine privilege, but the birthright of all humans who activate their Christ consciousness. However, accessing this level of creative force carries profound ethical responsibility. The monad responds to consciousness without moral judgment, manifesting whatever templates receive consistent energetic attention and emotional investment. This means individuals activating I Am power must carefully examine their intentions, ensuring alignment with universal principles of harmony, evolution, and respect for free will. Power without wisdom generates chaos and suffering. Those who access monadic force for selfish manipulation, control over others, or purely egotistical purposes inevitably experience destructive consequences, as reality ultimately maintains balance through natural law operating across multiple dimensions simultaneously. Your monad prayer practice. The integration of I Am activation into daily life requires both dedicated practice sessions and moment-to-moment awareness that extends the monad connection throughout all activities. The foundational meditation begins with establishing a quiet, undisturbed space where consciousness can turn inward without external distractions. Sitting comfortably with spine aligned to facilitate optimal energy flow. Practitioners close their eyes and focus attention on the breath, allowing thoughts to settle and awareness to drop below the surface level of mental chatter into deeper states of presence. Once this preliminary calm establishes, the practitioner begins vocalizing I Am with each exhale, allowing the sound to resonate throughout the entire body. The initial repetitions may feel mechanical, but persistence gradually shifts the experience from intellectual exercise to energetic activation. As the practice continues, awareness expands beyond ordinary boundaries, and subtle sensations of energy movement become noticeable. Some practitioners experience tingling, warmth, or waves of energy flowing through their system. Others notice profound stillness and clarity emerging from within. Both experiences indicate successful activation, as the monad manifests uniquely according to individual consciousness. After establishing strong energetic coherence through sound, the practitioner maintains the I Am vibration silently while directing intention towards specific areas of life requiring transformation. This is not wishing or hoping, but commanding reality from recognition of sovereign creative power. The practitioner visualizes desired outcomes as already manifest, feeling the emotional reality of their accomplishment, and impressing these templates into the quantum field through sustained focused attention. The practice concludes with gratitude expressed not for future blessings, but for present abundance, reinforcing the consciousness of already having rather than lacking. Integrating this practice into modern life challenges practitioners to maintain monad connection amidst daily activities, responsibilities, and interactions. Brief I Am declarations throughout the day serve as reset buttons, returning awareness to divine identity whenever it becomes lost in reactive patterns or limiting narratives. Each time consciousness remembers its true nature, the neural pathways supporting that recognition strengthen, gradually making Christ consciousness the default state rather than a temporary experience accessed only during meditation. The ripple effect of individual monad activation extends far beyond personal benefit. As each person awakens to their divine nature, they contribute to raising collective consciousness frequency, making it progressively easier for others to access similar states. This creates an exponential acceleration toward planetary awakening, where humanity collectively remembers its true power and transcends the systems of control that depend on ignorance and disempowerment. What shifts have you noticed in your reality since activating your I Am power? Share your manifestation breakthroughs below and inspire others on this journey to sovereignty.